Your Honor, Counsel and I, my interpretation of our conversation was that we join in a request to, for the court to excuse juror number 12 based on his travel plan.
That is exactly correct, Your Honor. He was very honest that he wouldn't be willing to change it, but we've done it for him. So that is correct.
He'll be released for cause.
We've done it for him. So that is correct.
He'll be released for cause. Number 11 is available. She just thought I said be back at 1:45 versus 1:30. Ms. Hill?
Number 11, I'd like to ask you a few follow-ups from this morning.
Okay.
I believe you raised your hand and said you had actually changed one or more of your answers since filling out the questionnaire on Friday. Is that correct?
Right.
Can you tell us what question you
I
changed
had
your
checked off that I didn't know anything about the case or the situation, and when I got home I realized I did.
Okay. So you are aware of this case?
Yes.
Tell us first how you became aware about information involving this case.
When I turned on the news and saw it, I realized that it was the same thing.
The same thing as a case that you had learned about before?
Well, the names and the situation.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So when you turned on the news, you realized that the case you had filled out a questionnaire for was the same case that the news was talking about. So when you saw the news coverage, did you see the story?
No, because they said not to listen to anything, so I turned it off.
Okay, all right. So as you stand here today, based on what little you may or may not have heard, have you formed or expressed any opinions as to the guilt or innocence of the defendant in this case?
No.
You also indicated that you or someone that you know has experienced sexual harassment in the workplace.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
It was me, and it was somebody that I worked with, and I had to report him.
You did report him?
Yep, I talked to him first, and it didn't stop, so I reported it to our office.
Okay. Was it resolved after you reported it?
For a while, and then it started back, but he quit.
He quit, okay. Was this an individual that you had to work closely with, or just someone that was there in the office?
I didn't see him every day, probably twice a week.
And was this someone that maybe initially you had befriended or considered a friend, or was this someone who just completely decided to?
Considered a friend.
You did consider a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, things progressed to the extent where you felt as though you were being harassed.
Yeah.
Give me a little bit more information about when and how that happened.
Well, I knew he had a flirtatious personality, but never towards me. And all of a sudden, it started towards me.
Okay. And when it did start towards you, I know you ultimately reported it, but what, if anything, did you do in that instance?
First couple of times, I just laughed it off. And when it kept going, I told him that I didn't like it. And he stopped for about a week, and then I said, I'm really tired of this. And he stopped for a week, and it started back, and then I reported it. And our human resources person talked to him.
Okay. If you're selected to serve as a juror on this case, and if by chance you happen to hear information that relates to the workplace and potential sexual harassment, would your situation cloud your ability to listen to the evidence, or would you be able to set your personal experience aside and listen to the evidence and base whatever verdict you may reach upon the evidence only?
Based on the evidence.
Okay. Now, the other thing that you told us is that you know someone or close friend or family member who is a person who suffers with mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? First, tell us who it is and the type of disorder they may have.
My daughter is ADHD with a mood disorder, and my brother is trying to think of the word. I can't think of what it's called. Not psychotic. I can't think of it.
What kind of behaviors did he display?
Mood disorder and panic attacks and similar to bipolar.
Okay. And you actually did mention your daughter in the questionnaire.
Mm.
I think you also indicated that you are the sole caretaker of her. Is
And
that
my
correct?
son.
And your
Mhm.
son. If you're selected to serve as a juror on this case, what impact, if any, will that have on your ability to care for your daughter and son?
Nobody else cares for him, and a lot of the times I work from home because she is an online at-home student, so I have to help her at home too because she had a problem in the public school system. So my boss lets me work from home when she's having problems with her issues.
Okay. How old is she?
17.
17. So is she out of school for the summer
Yes.
right now?
Mm-hmm.
So she's not taking classes as we speak?
Mm-mm.
All right. So if you were selected to serve as a juror on this case, obviously you wouldn't have to be there to sit with her while she's taking classes because she's not taking any right now.
Mm.
Do you know when her classes resume?
Both of them August 12th.
August 12th.
Mm-hmm. Oh, now I remember. My brother was diagnosed schizophrenic.
Okay. All right. I wanted to ask you also, you mentioned in your questionnaire about your father
Mm-hmm.
and that you assist with his transportation.
If it's raining or overcast or dark and he has to go somewhere, I have to drive him because he has a problem with vision when it's not bright outside.
If you're selected to serve as a juror on this case, would you be able to make other arrangements for someone else to drive him, or is it something that you have to do?
I might be able to make arrangements.
Okay. You also said that both you and your parents, and you have friends and families, members who have been divorced, is that
Mhm.
correct? In any of those situations, did the divorce get, say, ugly?
One of my friends, yeah. Mine was okay.
It was okay?
Yeah.
You all were able to resolve it?
Mm-hmm. And it was handled by Judge Adams.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anything about the fact that Judge Adams handled your divorce that would be weighing on your mind if you were selected to serve as a juror on this case?
No.
Okay. And your friend, is it something that you, I guess, have personal knowledge about? Were you there with her during the divorce?
No.
Did you have go to support her at the house while she was going through the divorce? Anything that would have allowed you to be, I guess, personally acquainted with what was going on?
No, only just from what she told us.
Okay. You also indicated that your former husband had been arrested for DUI.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct? And you had some feelings about the case and the way it was handled. Can you tell us about that, please?
Well, he kept having to go back to court because it was the call came in from a police from Clarkston and DeKalb County, and when he went to court, apparently the two officers had told him two different things. One had offered him to let him call somebody to pick him up, but when he went to court, because the two officers were disputing, the judge just kept asking for evidence and recordings, and it just seemed messy.
Okay. And in your answer, you said you believe the case should have been dropped due to the police statements conflicting. Right? Have you ever served? You've served on a criminal jury before, correct?
Yes.
And without telling us what the verdict was, did you have an opportunity to hear witnesses testify in that case?
Yes.
Okay, and so you understand the nature of a criminal proceeding and the way a trial goes, correct? If you had to listen to evidence, and let's just say the evidence conflicted in some way, would the fact that you believed your husband's case, your former ex-husband's case, should have been dismissed because of conflicting testimony, if you were to hear evidence that was not necessarily the same from two different witnesses, how, if at all, would that impact your ability to serve as a juror?
It would be hard to decide which way to go.
Okay. Would it be something that you could work through, or the fact that there's a conflict, you just could not get beyond that?
I guess it would have to be something besides those two witnesses
Okay. All right.
that would make the decision.
Okay. So you could listen and actually, I guess, try and resolve any conflict yourself based on other information you might be given.
Yeah.
And I mentioned the fact that you had served as a prior juror in a criminal case. Anything about that experience that still stays with you and kind of sits in your mind and make you not want to be a juror in another case?
No, it ended up fine.
Okay. You also made a comment in your questionnaire that you believe cases are won or lost on how good the lawyer is and not based on the actual crime. Let's talk a little bit about that, okay? Are you talking specifically about any one case, or are you talking about the criminal justice system in general? Give us an idea of what you meant when you wrote that answer.
I guess because there can be evidence that's not admitted based on one lawyer or the other one objecting to it, and if one lawyer is better than the other and they could bring out more information, then the lawyers are doing more of the work to me. So I guess it's what they can actually present.
And how does that affect your ability to listen to the evidence as a juror if you feel like maybe because this lawyer isn't as good as the other lawyer, there's information that you're not being given?
Or just have to go on what you hear.
Okay, all right. So you could base your verdict, whichever way it would be, solely on the evidence.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You said you don't believe in the death penalty. You understand that that's not an issue in this case?
Right.
Okay. So would you have any problem at all serving as a juror if you were selected to sit in this case?
My only problem would be the time that we would have to be here, how late, or with me being the only parent at home.
Well, as Judge Adams told you earlier, if you're looking, let's just say, a time period of 2 to 3 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And generally a regular business day from 9 to 5:30-ish. Is that something you could swing if you were selected?
I guess so. I'd probably have to get some help in some of the evenings.
Okay. And when you say in some of the evenings, if you were to leave here by 5 or 5:30, would that present a problem, or?
Well, my daughter works in the evenings, and usually she has to be there at 4:30 or 5, so my boss lets me be at home to get her to work.
All right. Would you be able to get someone else to drive her, or are you her sole means of transportation?
So means, because there's no bus service where I live, and we tried the taxi, and they said that was too far for them.
Okay. And let's see, she's 17, so she doesn't drive.
Because of issues. She couldn't get a license.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
With that,
Yes, sir. May I confer with the prosecutor?
oh, you may. Yes, sir.
No questions, Judge.
All right, thank you. We have on the stage.
Your Honor, by agreement between the state and defense, we have agreed to let juror number 11
We can send to the hardship, Your Honor.
based on her hardship.
All right, you may proceed. This is juror 13.
Juror number 13, I see that you have had a bad experience with law enforcement, and in fact, I'm quoting from your questionnaire, you said the prosecutor was a liar.
Not here. This, it was in Texas before I even knew this person.
Okay.
So it's nothing I've experienced firsthand.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about that situation?
It was a death penalty case in Texas, and the prosecuting attorney at the time, for the research I did on that, they didn't have any DNA evidence that this person actually committed the crime, and the state of Texas killed him anyway,
Okay.
without any physical evidence at all. So,
All right. No physical evidence at all?
yes, sir.
All right. You said the research that you did on it. Let's
Yeah.
start there.
Mm-hmm.
In what capacity did you do research on this case? Were you hired? Were you just interested as a citizen, or were you this personal to you?
It was personal to me because one of my best friends, her friend, is the one that they killed on death row. So, and she was actually giving me all the information about which the research that she's done, a little bit that I did was the same thing that she did. So she probably did much deeper than I did.
And what type of research?
Just old newspapers that she came across online, and about the same thing that her friend, going by what her friend was telling her.
Have you had occasion to research any other criminal cases?
No.
Was there anything about what happened in Texas and your experience or your feelings about the Texas case or the prosecutor in Texas that would affect your ability to be a fair and impartial juror in this case?
No, sir.
You also have in quotation marks as well that you do not trust the system.
Yes.
All right, so when you say the system, were you referring to the criminal justice system?
I mean, I'm still stuck on a Zimmerman trial. I do apologize, but
No, we're looking for your honest opinion,
yes, sir.
nothing to apologize for.
I do believe the system does work, but it sometimes seems unfair.
When you say sometimes it seems unfair, is there any particular example that you can give me?
For example, what seems unfair to me is when you, like the case I was telling you about, my friend's friend that was killed on death row in Texas. To me, it seemed unfair from what I understand, his case seemed very unfair because his attorney, his prosecuting attorney, his defending attorney didn't do much to assist him. The prosecuting attorney they had lied about a lot of things. So, nothing against you or anyone, but I'm just saying.
I understand. I have another quote that I wrote down. It's something to the effect of, the system only works if you're white. Is that your statement?
I was thinking about the Zimmerman trial right there, but.
Okay. And that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, no judgment. But what I need to ask you is that
Mm-hmm.
the defendant is Caucasian, is white in this case. Is there anything about that, about her race, that would keep you from sitting as a juror, listening to the evidence, listening to the witnesses, and making a decision based on the evidence and what you hear from the witness stand?
Also, is there anything that would
Is
hold?
there anything about her being white that would prevent you
No.
from being a fair and impartial juror?
No,
Okay.
no.
You also indicated that you have had experience, or someone close to you has had an experience with sexual harassment. Was that you personally or someone else?
It was my sister.
Okay, can you tell us about what you know about that situation?
The only thing I know, I'm not really close with her, but she's in the Navy, and someone, I guess she had her hair like in a, some type of, the way she had her hair fixed at the time, the guy stuck his finger in and said something highly inappropriate to her. So she just went to her officer that was higher than her and reported it, and I believe that I think he got in trouble for it, but that was it. But I mean, as far as her feelings and everything, she was angry, but she didn't really discuss much with me about the whole situation, and that was it. It was handled like it should have been.
So I understand you say that that she disclosed it or reported it immediately.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, she did.
And I understand you also say that it was handled, meaning that the Navy took care of it immediately.
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you know of any discipline that the person that stuck his finger in her hair and made those comments got?
I think he was demoted. I do believe he was demoted, but after I didn't really follow up on that one.
Did she ever, she being your sister, ever tell you or indicate that she received any type of backlash or mistreatment in the Navy for reporting sexual harassment?
No, sir.
All right. I'm looking at question number 54. And you have she, and then quote, allegedly had an affair with him. I don't know if that's true. Tell me where you learned that she allegedly had an affair with him, and I assume you're talking about Hemi Newman, correct?
Yeah, I guess that's his name.
Okay.
I mean, that's what they said a long time when the case first started. I mean, a long time ago, and because I never did file the case, so I don't know what happened with that. That's why I said allegedly,
Okay.
because it's alleged, but I don't know.
Okay. And when
I
you
never followed this case at all.
And when you said that's what they said, are you talking about what you heard on the news?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Have you heard anything about this case since then? What you just told us about?
No, because actually earlier last week I saw her name on the AJC.com. They mentioned her name, but I didn't go into the article. I was like, I just went on to something else. I didn't even read the article at all. I wasn't interested in reading the article.
Is there anything about this case that you know of so far? Understanding that you don't know much, but anything that you may have heard about in the media or on the news that would prevent you from being a fair and impartial juror in this case?
No, I don't watch the news. It's city pressing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Juror number 13, is it fair to say that you have a healthy degree of skepticism towards what you see in the media?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and could you elaborate on that and tell us why it is you have that skepticism?
Okay, I'll give you a prime example.
Sure.
The church I go to is New Birth Missionary Baptist Church, and with the accusations that went out against my pastor, I just did not find any of those to be true. But the media flipped it as if it was. So I don't really believe what they say in the media.
Okay, and that would have been with Bishop Long?
Bishop Long,
right?
yes, sir. Bishop
Okay.
Eddie Long, yes, sir.
Did you know any of the individuals who were making the accusations?
Not directly, no. Indirectly, yes.
But you heard one picture in the media, and you knew something from your own observations?
Yes, sir.
And personal interactions with folks. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, sir.
In describing your opinion in this case, as Mr. James said, you said you heard that they allegedly had an affair, and you put allegedly in quotes. Any particular reason why you put that word in quotes?
Because it's the media. The media, I believe that they will tell you they will tell you the story the way they want you to perceive it. And so I just really don't believe much the media says. I just don't.
Do you believe that the media on occasion sensationalizes situations?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Big time.
Okay. Now, how much of the previous trial in this case with Mr. Newman did you watch?
-0. Not at all.
Okay. I know there was both print coverage and TV coverage, and probably radio as well. Primarily, where would your knowledge have come from for you to have gained previous knowledge about this case?
When you're flipping through the channels, a couple of years ago, Channel 2 News had something on about it, and I just saw that little part, and I just flipped it. That's why I said allegedly, because I don't really know. I didn't really watch the news. I just remember him saying that.
Did you familiarize yourself with the cast of characters who were involved in the previous trial?
No.
Okay. I noticed on your questionnaire, in response to the question about specifically using the name Hemi Newman, you had written, "Who is Hemi Newman?" Does that indicate you did not know that individual's name?
Right.
Okay. And did you recall any of the other testimony or roles of the other people involved in the trial?
No, sir.
Okay. Could you tell us who were the prosecutors in that previous case or the defense attorneys in the previous case?
No.
So is it fair to say that as you sit here today, or stand here today actually, you are pretty much perfectly impartial between one side and the other?
Yes, sir.
You would decide the case based on what you heard in this courtroom and on nothing else?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you did mention something about possibly having issues with taking your son to get medication, but I guess you said that could be rescheduled? Okay. So that is not present itself as a conflict, is that correct?
No, sir. No.
First 48, how often do you watch that particular TV show?
Every once in a while. I try not to because I may end up watching it all day. I don't watch it that often.
Okay.
I have watched it maybe 3 or 4 months ago.
Okay.
I don't even remember what happened on there.
It is my understanding that in the past, there have been episodes on that particular show that focused on cases out of DeKalb County. Do you recall ever having seen any of those cases that focused on a situation out of DeKalb County?
No, sir.
Okay. As far as you know, had you ever received any sort of footage on that show of a court proceeding in DeKalb County?
No, sir.
Your first cousin was the victim of a homicide. How long ago was that?
89.
89?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You would have been much younger at that time. Are you really 48, by the way?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess you would have been 25-ish?
Yeah,
Okay.
something like, or 24 turned to 25.
Okay.
You know, so-
Were you living in the same location where that occurred?
No, sir. I was here and he's in New Orleans.
Okay, and so you did not actually attend any sort of court proceeding relative to that case, is that a
There
fair
was
statement?
not, they didn't have any.
Nobody ever caught?
The police knew who it was because the witnesses would not come forward. The case just dropped
Okay.
and so nothing
Presumably
was-
folks were intimidated for
Yes.
whatever reason.
they were, yes, sir.
Let me go back to the subject that Mr. James talked to you about your belief that there is some sort of, I guess, a different system for white folks and a different system for black folks.
It seems that way.
Understandable. Obviously, do you think that applies in DeKalb County?
I've never seen it in DeKalb County, no.
Do you think, would it be fair to say that you would like the system to work for everyone?
Yes.
Okay. you believe right now the system works for white people, but not necessarily for black people, is that correct?
In Texas, but not in, I've not experienced that in Georgia, no sir,
Okay.
only in Texas.
That is something you believe probably is more likely to occur perhaps in Texas, is that a fair statement?
Yes,
Okay.
yes sir.
You did watch, I guess, some of the Zimmerman court proceedings on Nancy Grace or shows of her ilk, is that correct?
Yes sir.
Do you think your opinions as to the inequality in treatment of members of different races in the court system in other jurisdictions would affect your ability at all to be a fair and impartial juror if you were selected to sit in this case?
No sir,
Obviously, Mrs. Sneiderman is Caucasian.
yes.
Would you be able to decide this case based on the facts and the facts alone and leave aside any issue of race?
Yes sir.
You work on a TV ministry production company, is that out of New Birth?
Yeah, I work, that's my volunteer. I volunteer as a camera person inside the church when we have service.
Okay,
That's
how
it.
often you do that, how often?
Whenever they schedule me, every once in a while, or I might go for prayer service, or it's whenever they call me, and it's not that often.
Okay.
I haven't done
And
that much this
are
year.
services in New Birth still telecast on local channels?
The local, I'm not certain,
Okay,
but I know
but-
they're on the Word Network.
Okay.
I don't think it's local anymore.
I don't believe I have any other questions. Thank you very
Okay.
much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you can follow the instructions of the clerk. State,
Qualified, Your Honor.
fence.
I agree, Your Honor.
All right. Should be next. Hello, you can just stand right there. Thank you. Mr. James?
Yes, sir. Ma'am, I understand that, you had an experience with, law enforcement, something involving a disorderly house?
Mhm.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about that?
It was my birthday, and we was wrapping things up, and had turned the music off, and some officers came to my house, and they started asking everybody for their ID and stuff like that, and it got real, you know. So they locked like 3 people up, but when we went to court, they dismissed it. Mhm.
So if I ask you if you were satisfied how that case was resolved, I presume your answer will be yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Did you feel that you were treated fairly by, let's start with by the police in that case?
A little bit.
A little bit?
Mhm.
You can be honest.
Yeah, a little bit.
A
Not
little bit.
really.
Not really?
Mhm.
Okay. How about when you got to court, did you deal with the prosecutor's office? Was it city court, or was it in DeKalb County,
Yeah,
this
it
courthouse?
was here in this courthouse.
Okay, did you deal with the prosecutor?
It never did got that far.
You never got that far? Okay. I also see, you indicated that, either you or someone close to you has to deal with divorce.
Yeah,
Who is that?
my mom.
Your mom?
Mhm.
Okay, are you familiar with that situation?
Not really. I was young.
Okay. Mom never talked to you about it? Okay. Is there any reason whatsoever that you can think of that, you would not be able to sit as a fair and impartial juror in this case?
No.
All right. And when I'm going through the questionnaire, I see also that you really, haven't seen any media coverage about this case.
I haven't had cable TV in my house within a year.
Yeah.
So. I don't look at the news.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. Thank you very much.
Mr. Morgan?
Thank you. Just a few follow-up questions. Juror number 14. You grew up in Madison?
Mm-hmm.
And your children, did they grow up in DeKalb or did they grow up in Morgan County as well?
They grew up in Fulton.
Oh, in Fulton? And did they grow up in a home with you?
Mm-hmm.
And where was your last employment? What did you do before?
I was working at Cracker Barrel in Madison, Georgia.
In Madison?
Mm-hmm.
And how long ago has that been?
It's been about 2 or 3 years.
2 or 3 years. And then you moved over to the Atlanta area?
Mm-hmm.
You weren't commuting from here to Morgan County?
Huh?
You were not commuting from here to?
Oh, no. I
Madison.
stay in DeKalb.
Okay. And your son lives with you as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you said you knew something about this case. Was that from television, radio, internet?
People talking about it. That's
Just
it.
people talking about it,
Mhm.
but you had no opinion one way or the other?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Following instructions of the clerk. From the state,
Qualified, Your Honor.
defense,
No objection, Your Honor.
15 to be next. Mr. James?
Yes, sir. I understand that you've not seen any media coverage about this case?
No.
Okay. I also understand that a family member of yours went to jail for a crime involving a child or a little kid, is that correct?
Mhm.
All right. Do you feel like he or she was treated fairly?
Oh, he did it.
He did it?
Mhm.
Okay, was that here in DeKalb County?
No, Buffalo, New York.
Buffalo, New York. Is there any reason you can think of at all that you would not be able to sit as a fair and impartial juror in this case?
No.
Thank you.
Mr. Petrie?
You currently work for DOC?
GDC, yes.
Okay. Department of Corrections, with
Yes.
a particular probation department, or are you at a central office?
No, I'm at Tiff College in Forsyth, Georgia,
Okay. And how long have you been with them?
since 2005.
And if I read, that sort of got a little weak in the Xerox in here, it looks like you are involved in the administrative end, not in any kind of law enforcement
No, just
capacity with
administration.
arrest powers or anything like that. Okay. Have you ever been involved with DOC in any other capacity from the one you told us about in your written question?
No.
Okay. Just a moment, please, ma'am. The question, have you or any friend, and by friends I guess I mean close friends or relatives, ever been in any law enforcement capacity? You answered yes to that. Is there anybody other than yourself who's been connected either administratively or with arrest powers in law enforcement?
No.
Okay. And if I read your answers correct on the questions about publicity with this case, you have not seen, to your recollection, any publicity in this case that would affect your ability to serve as a juror, is that correct?
Not at all.
Okay. And having come to court and actually seen some of the actual people involved in it, your answer still is you could be fair to both sides in this case?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. He is following instructions of the clerk. Any objection from the state?
No objection, Judge.
Nor from the defense.
Qualified? 16 will be next.
Young for waiting 69, is 18 still absent? Do we know?
Let me double, I'll confirm.
Yes.
Hello. You may proceed.
Juror number 16, you're in college now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, what year?
I will be a sophomore.
Okay. And when do your classes start?
Kennesaw starts classes on Saturdays, so it'll be August 17th.
And do you know what the policy is about missing classes for jury service?
Not particularly for jury service, although I do know the attendance policy.
Okay, let us know what the attendance policy is.
If you miss 3 classes, you are dropped a letter grade.
If you miss 3 classes, you're dropped a letter grade.
Yes, in that particular class, not 3 total.
How many classes do you have in a week? Do you have a class? In other words, let me restate the question. Do you have a class that meets 2 days a week?
It depends on the class.
Okay.
I'm taking 6 classes that meet 2 days a week and 1 class that meets 1 day a week.
Okay. So you're taking 6 classes that meet
2 days a week.
2 days a week
And
one
one.
class.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. How would it affect you if this case went into the latter part of August and you missed, say, 2 weeks of class?
Well, I think it definitely would affect me, and that I would say later on in the semester I had to miss because I was sick or another reason, I wouldn't be able to. Also, I would miss a lot of instruction, especially in the classes that the one class that I have only 1 day a week.
Yes.
It's a 2-hour and 45-minute class, and I've had 3 classes like that in the past, and it's really hard to afford to miss those, just because there's so much instruction in 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Can you tell us about your transportation capabilities?
Yes, or lack thereof, actually. I do not drive and I do not own a car.
So how do you get to school?
I live on campus,
Okay.
and to come back to Decatur, where I work, on weekends, I take the bus, the Cobb County Transit bus, and the
Yes.
MARTA.
Is that something that you could do during the week?
Yes, I guess conceivably. Although the trip is, it takes about an hour. The commute is an hour at least, if not longer. And it would mean perhaps missing more classes than I would otherwise.
Okay. In the questionnaire it says, do you have any religious, moral, or ethical convictions that would affect your ability to pass judgment on the defendant? Your response was, I do not know. I think it would depend on the situation. Can you enlighten us?
I guess I don't have a religious affiliation. I think they would affect it, but I guess it would just depend on the situation as to what ethics I would choose.
Let me ask you this question.
Yes.
There is going to be a trial, and if you're selected as a juror, you have to sit and listen to evidence and make a decision based on the evidence that you hear, based on the testimony and any other evidence that's presented to you. Do you think that you could set aside any moral, ethical, personal, religious feelings or beliefs and do that?
Yes.
Okay. And so when I read this question and it says, do you have any religious, moral, ethical convictions that would affect your ability to pass judgment on the defendant? Is your response, yes, I can, or no, I cannot?
I guess my response would be, I have no convictions that would influence like that.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
So you can render a verdict based
Yes.
on the facts and the
Yes, sir.
evidence? Okay. also see that, you have someone that is close to you that was involved in a divorce.
Yes.
Okay, and who is this?
My best friend.
Your best friend?
Yes.
Was it a contentious divorce, or do you know enough about it?
Somewhat. I mean, my memory of that divorce was really from her, like her point of view, simply because we're both kids and it emotionally affected her.
Okay. I'm looking at question number 62, where it asks you, do you know or have you heard of the judge in this case or any of the lawyers, so forth and so on? And you say, I have not heard of this judge or these lawyers, and you have an arrow, and maybe it's nothing, but I have to ask the question. You have an arrow, and it appears to be pointing specifically to my name and to the name of Kelly Stevens Hill, who also is with the DA's office.
I didn't mean it specifically. It was just a blanket.
Just a blanket?
Yes.
Okay.
So are you familiar with the lawyers who do not have the arrows by their names?
No, I'm not familiar with any of the lawyers involved.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Clay?
Yes, sir, thank you. Juror number 16, let me just make sure I understand. You only get so many excused absences during the course of a semester.
Yes.
Okay, and how many is it?
You get 3 and then that's it.
Okay, and can you have an excused I guess these are unexcused absences. Can you have an excused absence?
Yes.
And is jury service an excused absence?
I'm not altogether sure.
Okay, so it is possible that if you have a civic duty or obligation to sit on a jury, the school will not punish you as a result.
It's possible, although I guess what I miss in instruction might not be punished, but it'll sort of punish me in a sense.
Okay. Do you think if you were to sit on this jury, it would affect your ability, would you be worrying about your missed schoolwork?
Yes.
Okay. Would that affect your ability to focus and listen to what is going on this trial, if you were selected?
To some degree, I think so, definitely. I have to move all my stuff up to Kennesaw. I'm sort of like preoccupied with getting all that completed. I'm also currently participating in an internship for college credit, and I do have some things that I'd like to finish up before I go back to school.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am.
This following the instruction of the clerk. From the state.
Your Honor, I would move for a historical cause based on hardship. She's a young woman in college. She would have to take the bus here. I presume that would require her to get up very early. She'd also have to miss college classes, and we're not exactly sure if those absences are going to be excused. If they're not excused, obviously it's going to drop her a letter grade in the class based on what she articulated. Even if they are excused, however, at the beginning of the school year, it's going to push her back a considerable amount in terms of her instruction. I think she also said that she'd be...
Excuse me. Hold 1 second. Just hold 1 second.
She would be somewhat distracted as well. And based on the aforementioned reasons, I would ask that she be excused.
Clerk.
Your Honor, I believe Mr. James has succinctly and cogently stated a basis for hardship, and we would not oppose the motion.
All right, lawyers, I will concur. Here we go. You can bring it next. The 17 next.
Juror 17?
Yes.
I am going to ask you first about the situation you alerted us to about your financial situation if you were on a jury of this length. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Just that if it's going to be like 3-4 weeks, that would be financially difficult, but.
Okay. And you said you get 3 paid days for jury service.
Yes.
Did you use one of those days today?
Yes, Friday.
Friday. Okay. All right. If for some reason or if because you were selected on this jury, you were absent from work for this purpose to be here with us for 3 weeks approximately, how much of a financial impact would that have on you and your family?
It'd be significant, but I mean, I could do it if I
You
needed
could do it, okay. You also let us know that you had heard some press about this case or something in the media about this case since Friday when you came to fill out your questionnaire.
Oh, on the radio,
On the radio?
yes.
Okay. Do you remember what specifically you heard?
It's 106.7. They just go over all the news bulletins, so
Okay.
nothing in depth.
Is there anything that you heard since you filled out your questionnaire on Friday that causes you to have an opinion about the case?
No.
Okay. Did you have an opinion about the case before?
No.
No. But you had heard about the case?
Had heard about it.
Okay. And explain to me, if you heard about the case but you don't have an opinion, is that because you don't have enough information or you just?
I didn't have enough information to formulate an opinion.
Okay. The questionnaire asked you a general question about the criminal justice system, and your answer was that you didn't believe that it was fair.
Right.
Can you tell me about your feelings about that?
Just overall, but I mean, nothing like isolated or anything, but just that, you know, our justice system, it's been evolving, but it's improving.
Okay. Is your opinion particular to DeKalb County or any experience you or a friend might have had in DeKalb County, or is that kind of your feeling in general?
No, just in general.
In general, okay. Is there any particular case that has led you to that conclusion or that gave you that impression?
No, just the trajectory of
Just
the entire justice system. Yeah.
All right. Your brother was involved in a situation.
Yes.
Was that here in DeKalb County or was
No.
that somewhere else?
Fulton.
In Fulton, okay. Do you know about how long ago that was?
About 2 years ago.
Okay. And was your brother, he was a police officer?
Yes.
Okay. Did you follow that case very closely?
No.
Did you go to any of the court hearings or
I
anything
did
like
not.
that? Do you have an opinion about how or if your brother was treated fairly in that situation?
No, I didn't attend any hearings or anything, so I didn't.
Okay. Does he have an opinion about whether he was treated fairly in that situation?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Is there anything about that, that situation that would lead you to feel one way or the other about sitting as a juror in a criminal case?
No, not at all.
Okay. Is this the same brother who was in the Army?
No,
Okay, it's a different brother.
different brother.
Okay, was that brother still?
I'm sorry?
Is that brother still in the Army?
Yes, he is.
And that's his career? How long has he been in?
Right. He actually just finished school, so he'll be a second lieutenant going to Korea this winter.
All right. You have a child who is elementary school age?
Yes, he's not.
And what school is that child in?
LPA, Leadership Preparatory Academy.
Oh, okay. I
Charter
didn't
school.
understand the abbreviation. Okay. When you were a victim of a crime, or the situation you relayed in the questionnaire about being a victim of a crime or someone who you know had been a victim of a crime and you were unsatisfied with the police response.
Yeah, I've been a victim of a crime.
That was you? Okay.
Right.
Can you tell me about that?
My car was burglarized twice, stolen once. No police came out.
They didn't come out?
No.
Was that here in DeKalb County?
Yes, they took a report over the phone, but I mean, I think it's just standard procedures.
All right, so based on what you told me, there was no arrest in the case.
There was an arrest and a conviction.
Did you ever have to participate in the justice system? Anybody come to court?
No, we didn't have
that?
to go to court or anything.
Okay. Did somebody call and let you know then that that's
We were
what
informed
happened?
via letter.
I'm sorry?
We got a letter from the,
Okay.
I guess the DA's office, I'm not sure.
Okay. All right, let me ask you first about your experience with the police in that case. You said they didn't even come out. Did you have any contact with police in that instance other than they took the report over the phone?
When it was burglarized, no. When the car was actually stolen, we met them because the perpetrator used my card while I was on the phone with the bank.
Okay.
So,
And what did you think about your involvement with police in that? Were they helpful? Was it
somewhat.
somewhat not completely
Not
overwhelmingly
completely.
helpful? Okay. And what about in the situation where there was an arrest and then a conviction with your contact with the district attorney's office, just a letter? did you feel that was satisfactory?
No, I was surprised with that, yeah.
You were surprised you got it? Okay.
And it was helpful to know at least.
Yeah. All right. Anything about any of those situations that you think would weigh on you one way or the other if you were a juror in a criminal case?
No.
Is there anything I didn't ask you about that that you think would impact your ability to be a fair and impartial juror in the case?
I don't think so. No.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Morgan?
Thank you. Just a few follow-up questions, juror number 17. Your brother, was he convicted of violation of oath?
Yes, he was.
And was that in a jury trial, or did he plead?
I didn't attend any hearings. I'm not positive on that.
Okay, so you're not very close to him?
He's my half-brother, but no, we weren't living together at the time.
Okay.
And so,
And so he shared nothing with you about the circumstances of that?
correct, I found out through my mom.
Okay. In the questionnaire, you also say you shared custody with your 9-year-old son, is
That's
that right?
correct.
Okay. What is your role in that shared custody arrangement?
We live together. We're not married, but we live together and we share custody.
Okay, so you're not sharing custody with someone outside the home?
Correct.
So you and your girlfriend share the responsibilities of child care together?
Yes.
And your involvement in jury duty in this case would not have any effect on how y'all arrange the child care then?
No, it shouldn't. She's a school teacher, but I mean, it shouldn't. I mean,
And again, you're a technician specialist with Canon.
correct.
And even though you would lose potentially a significant amount of pay over a period of time, that will not impact you to the effect that would deter you from serving on this jury, is that correct?
Right.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. Just kind of move the podium back a little bit. I don't have a
Oh, you
hard time
may.
seeing.
You may. Yes, sir, you may. You can move, that one's completely movable. Make sure you look at yourself, he is following the instructions. Please, thank you. Bill number 17. Yes, Lord, you can move that. What's the state's position?
No objection to this jury, Your Honor.
No objection.
All right, he's qualified.
Your Honor, before the next juror.
He's not available. Number 18, he'll be back tomorrow.
Your Honor, we have an agreement about juror 18. We don't need to bring him back. I agree with other parties. He has a pending medical condition.
That is correct, Your Honor. He knows a witness and has a pending medical condition,
All right.
so
We
unless the
will-
court just wants to bring him.
I understand. We'll make a note of that.
Thank you.
I have no objection to that procedure.
Stand.
So, just a couple questions for you.
Yes.
Juror 19. You raised your hand about a potential hardship or a conflict with jury service. Can you tell me about that?
I am my children's primary care person. Their daycare is over at 6, so I have to be able to pick them up by 6. I have to be.
And you've got an 8-year-old and 2 5-year-olds? Okay. The judge has let everyone know that we expect the courtroom proceedings to end at 5 o'clock, approximately 5 o'clock every day.
Mm-hmm.
If that were the situation, would that address your concern?
As long as I could be able to pick up, I have to go 2 different places to pick the kids up.
Okay.
It's in Decatur, so as long
Okay.
as I could be out of the building by 5:30, I think I could make it.
But is there any other, besides your child care pickup issue?
That's it.
I think everyone understands.
Well,
Is there another one?
No, I'm a teacher, and the kids start on Thursday, and
Is that
that's.
this Thursday?
Mhm.
Okay, so you are a teacher in the city of Decatur schools. Okay. What kind of arrangements do they make when a teacher or other staff member is on jury duty?
They would have subs come
They
in.
would come in, okay. Aside from the concern you have for your students wanting the continuity of having you there from the beginning, is there any other work situation that is? All right, I think you also raised your hand that you recognized one of the other jurors or one of the participants.
Yeah.
Okay, what?
I just he does puppetry stuff with my son at his aftercare.
He does what?
Puppetry. I think he
Oh,
works for the
okay.
Center of Puppetry Arts.
All right. Do you have any conflict with this person? Any particularly strong relationship with this person that would sway you if you were both on the jury?
I don't think so.
All right. You have heard about this case.
Mhm.
All right. Do you have any opinion about the case?
Not strong opinion.
Tell me a weak opinion. There's nothing wrong with having heard about the case and having an opinion about the case, so we're just trying to figure out
Yeah.
what that might be.
I understand the dynamics of having an outside of marriage affair and how that can sway one's judgment.
Did you have you followed this case particularly closely?
Yeah.
Would you say you followed it at all?
Followed it? No. I mean, it's kind of hard to not see stuff going on.
And you said you had no opinion when you filled out the questionnaire on Friday. Is that still your position? You have no opinion on it?
Not really. No.
You did see some press over the weekend, you let us know.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything about what you saw that makes you now have an opinion where you otherwise did not?
No,
Okay. Not for, against, either side,
not really.
guilt or innocence?
Mm.
Okay. All right. And you understand, of course, anything you would have read or seen that's not evidence?
Correct.
And the jurors in this case would need to decide the case just based on what they hear in court.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd have any trouble doing that if you were a juror in this case? You question a little bit about the criminal justice system, just the fairness in general. What's your opinion about that?
That it depends on how much money you have to how little time you have to serve or whether you get served correctly or not.
Okay. Is that based on any experience that you've had or something?
Not
you've
personal
had?
experience,
Okay.
just watching how things tend to work.
Any particular case leave an impression on you, or that's just your general impression?
General impression.
Okay. Again, having opinions is one thing, but being a juror in a criminal case, do you feel you'd be able to set any of those opinions you might have as a casual observer when you were an actual participant in a case if you were on the jury?
Would I be able to set them aside?
Would you be able to
Yes.
set them aside? Okay. You think you'd have any trouble doing that?
No.
You recognize Mr. Morgan as someone who had perhaps spoken at your school. Do you have any other relationship with Mr. Morgan other than was it one time, several times, just occasionally?
3 or 4 years, I think.
Okay. Do you have, he's quite charming, do you have an impression of him that would impact you one way or the other if you were a juror on this case? You think you'd be able to leave aside whatever interaction you might have had with him and just focus on the guilt or innocence of the defendant, as a jury would be charged to do? Your father was in the National Guard for 20 years? Is he retired now? Where is he a sheriff's deputy or a volunteer sheriff?
He was he's not now, he was in Tennessee, Franklin, Tennessee.
All right. And your personal situation that you let us know about, is there, don't need details, but is there anything about that situation that would be conflicting or weighing on you as you were a jury?
Possibly.
Possibly? Okay. Can you be more specific about that or tell me how you think it might weigh on you?
Just going through similar kind of things.
All right. Knowing that you have got an emotional, that's my word, not yours, but
Right.
is that an accurate?
Yeah.
Personal situation, do you think you could leave that aside and just judge the issues in the case based on the evidence of the case?
I hope so. I'm not 100% sure. I cannot say
Okay.
completely that I...
Okay. Is there anything that makes you believe that you couldn't? Anything in particular makes you believe that you couldn't?
No, it's, fresh, so.
All right. One moment, please.
You ready?
I asked you about Mr. Morgan, but I did not ask you about Mr. Petrie.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if I know him.
Okay, did you teach or had you ever taught his child?
yeah, he went through Edinburgh.
Okay,
Wife
does he?
and daughter.
Okay, so do you recognize the name? Do you recognize his?
Recognize, that's
it.
about it.
Okay. Anything about that situation that
No.
you think would? when I asked you a little bit about what you'd heard about the case, and you kind of brought it back to being a teacher, and you said you couldn't believe that the situation was took place in front of children or around children.
Right.
What did you mean by that?
That the original act happened near children. And that was fresh because my children were in daycare at that time, so I was shocked by that.
Okay, were you expressing shock at the tragedy of it, or?
Yeah.
When you said you can't believe it, does that mean that you'd formed an opinion that it couldn't have happened because it happened around children?
No.
Or were you just expressing concern about the?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand. Anything I didn't ask you about that you think we should know, or anything that would weigh on you as a juror?
I think you covered it. Thanks.
Mr. Clay?
Yes, ma'am, let me just make sure I understand. In your questionnaire, you had indicated that you knew something about the case, and your primary concern was that it had happened at a facility where children could have either been endangered or perhaps witnessed the event. Is that correct? If you could just speak up for the record, please.
Yes.
Okay. Is it fair to say that those concerns do not reflect one way or the other as to the specifics of any allegation being made, other than a generalized concern that someone would attempt to commit or commit such an act in close proximity to kids?
Can you rephrase that?
Okay. The fact that you have a concern that a homicide was committed near kids, does that cause you to have an opinion one way or the other as to whether or not Mrs. Sneiderman is guilty of the crimes that she is charged with in this indictment?
In this indictment, no.
Okay. That was one heck of a pregnant pause.
I know, because I'm.
And so I am guessing that you were thinking it over.
Right.
Could you tell us what you were thinking?
Sure. I was trying to take the analytical part of it and out and take the emotional piece away. So analytically, I understand that as of right now, there is no guilt or innocence, or there is innocence and no guilt at this point. So I can't rationally say that she had anything to do with that, rationally.
Okay. Analytically, you can sit here and concede that she is entitled to the presumption of innocence.
Yes.
And as she sits here, is cloaked with that presumption, correct?
Correct.
Can you do so emotionally?
That's what the pause was for.
Okay. Do you emotionally, on some emotional level, believe that she is guilty or might be guilty of the crime she is charged with?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think those emotional feelings might affect your ability to be a fair and impartial juror?
I would hope not. I can't answer that,
Okay.
yea or nay.
Do you believe that it is a possibility
Yes.
that your emotions could intrude upon your analytical sense and affect your ability to decide this case based fairly on the facts?
It's possible, yes.
Okay. All right. I don't have anything else. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Does the state have any follow-up?
No, sir.
You may follow the instruction of the clerk. What's the state's position?
This is a qualified jury, Your Honor.
Defense?
We would move to excuse her for cause based on her last answer, Sharon. She said she has emotional beliefs that might affect her ability to decide this case fair and impartially. She could not state with any degree of certainty whether or not those emotions might intrude upon her ability to evaluate this case strictly on the evidence. And she essentially said her emotions believe that Andrea Sneiderman is guilty of something.
Response?
I don't believe that that was a fair characterization of what this juror said, but I would.
Hold on. Just hold for a second, go ahead.
But certainly everyone's aware that the standard of excusing a juror for cause is not because she has a emotional, may or may not have an emotional reaction to the facts of the case, but because that that she hopes that she wouldn't and is concerned about her ability to set anything aside. The legal standard for excusing a juror for cause is someone who had a fixed and definite opinion such that she could not set it aside and serve as a juror on this case. And this juror said, by my count, at least 4 times that she had actually no opinion about the case, and that whatever she did know or had learned about the case, she would be able to set aside. Right now, she said there is innocence and no guilt. That's what she articulated, and I believe the record reflects that this juror is a qualified juror.
Anything else, Mr. Clegg?
You know, all I would note is the court would take note of the fact that when I asked her a question about her ability to sit as a fair and impartial juror, there was a lengthy pause that went on for at least 20 to 30 seconds before she was able to provide an answer. And then when I asked her to elaborate, she did indicate that the reason for the pause was that there was a part of her that believed that Andrea Sneiderman was guilty and would affect her ability to decide this case fairly and impartially.
I'm gonna overrule the objection. She's qualified based on her responses, based on all the questions in totality. Bring in the next one. She's qualified. 19's qualified. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Juror 21?
Hello.
I don't have that you raised your card or your number at any time this morning, is that right?
Yes.
You didn't raise your number at any time this morning to any of the questions?
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure I got that. And you were born in Haiti,
Yes.
but you don't have any language problem or any difficulty understanding what's going on today?
It's some word.
I'm sorry?
Some word.
Some? You have?
Maybe I can understand.
Okay.
It's hard.
When you didn't raise your hand this morning, was it because you weren't sure what any of the questions were?
No.
No? Okay, all right. And you understood the judge's instructions and
Yeah, sometimes I go too fast and then
okay, I'll try to slow down. All right.
Number 21, what is your primary language? Or your first language? Is it French?
French Creole.
French Creole. And how long have you been in the United States?
Since 97.
And you work as a nurse, is that correct?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. On the questionnaire, the question was whether the nature of this case or anything about this case might affect your ability to be fair if you were a juror. And you answered yes. What is it about this kind of case or the nature of this case that makes you worried about that?
What nature about this? Something just happened now or? But I don't remember the guy name, the one just passed on the Florida, the little boy.
Okay, Trevion Martin?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Okay. And did you follow that case pretty closely?
Well, I see he's hurt, but like he's hurt, he cannot be my son too.
Did you disagree with what happened there, with the verdict in that case? Let me put it a different way. Did you identify for your sons with the victim in that case?
Lawyers approach, please. Mr. Clay,
Yes, sir.
any questions?
No,
Oh, so Mr. Petrie?
no, sir, no question.
No, sir.
All for Mr.
Thank you.
Clay.
Thank you. Stay.
Your Honor, I just note for the record that this juror had seemed to have a difficult time understanding and responding in English, and after consultation with the defense, we agreed to excuse her by agreement.
Mr. Petrie?
Your Honor, we agree that both her oral responses here and some of her written responses, there seems to be a language problem, so we do join in that motion.
Should we release the cause? Should be 22 next. You can stand right there, sir. Thank you. Ms. Hill.
Okay, I could just follow up with you with a few questions. I think you told us that you could potentially have a conflict if you get selected to serve as a juror in this case.
Yes.
Would you elaborate a bit more for us?
I already have travel plans with the country on the 11th.
Leave the country on the 11th. Where are you going?
Jamaica.
For vacation? Or
Yes.
How long were you scheduled to be out of the country?
7 days. I'd be gone through the 17th.
You already have tickets in hand?
Mm-hmm.
Non-refundable?
Yes, as I understand.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
let's see, I don't believe I have any more questions. Thank you.
Mr. Clay?
Very briefly, sir, I apologize. I had a little difficulty hearing you. I know you have a family vacation sometime in August. When exactly is it?
The 11th through the 17th.
11th through the
17th.
17th, and where are you going again?
Jamaica.
Jamaica, okay. All right, that's fine. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Ball, we're going to instruct Mr. Clay. Thank you, sir. State's position.
Judge, I believe by agreement, because of his travel arrangements and prepaid tickets, we would agree to have him excused for cause.
That is correct, Your Honor.
All right, we'll accept that agreement. Should be 23 next.
None of us, we approve.
Sure, come on, boys, please. May I proceed? Miss, who's, what is this, who's your, Michelle?
Yes, Judge.
Is it Miss Hill?
Yes, Your Honor, and, by agreement, we don't have any questions.
That's correct.
All right, thank you. You may go back to the jury. Number 24, please.
John, may we hold just 1 second on number 24 so that the
Yeah,
state
yeah,
may
you can.
be quiet. I was just asking Ms. Hill to look at it while she does it.
Your Honor, just for the record, on juror number 23, who was just excused by agreement, we agreed to do that based on the responses in his questionnaire. They appeared to be pretty extreme, in addition to the fact that he actually had prepaid travel arrangements as well. But
There was more on the response.
But it was primarily because of his responses on the questionnaire. Yes, Your Honor.
So noted.
And that's just for the record.
I read the questionnaires also. 24 is coming in next. Number 24. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank you, Ms. Hill.
Thank you, Judge. Just need to follow up with a few questions for you. I think you told us this morning that you have seen, actually, you've seen some press coverage since filling out your questionnaire. Is that correct?
Not since filling out, well, yeah, that also too.
Well, I guess before
Before, right,
and after?
in passing, yes.
Okay. And anything about what you have seen that causes you to form an opinion one way or another about the defendant's
I
innocence?
probably had an opinion before, so nothing that I've seen over the past weekend is going to determine anything else for my decision one way or another. I'm already locked in.
You're locked in and fixed about your opinion.
Yes.
And if you were selected to sit as a juror, is it fair to say that there's nothing either side could present to you that would change your opinion?
I probably, honestly, I couldn't be impartial.
You cannot be.
No.
And it's fine, I'm just trying to get a real fair
I just seen a
sense
lot of stuff, and I've been following it, and I just don't think I can be impartial, and I know this is her life online, and I don't want to be impartial. I want to be every opportunity that she has to get a fair deal, but me personally, I can't make that decision. I can't be impartial.
All right, so, and what you're saying basically is you understand that the defendant is entitled to a fair trial?
Yes.
And if you had to have a person with the opinion that you already have sit as a juror on your case, you would not be comfortable with that, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, okay. And that wouldn't depend on, I mean, that wouldn't change depending on anything you heard throughout the trial?
No.
Okay, thank you.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Just follow the instructions of the clerk. Safe position.
Yes, Your Honor, the state would move to have juror 24 excused based on his answers in the questionnaire as well as here in court today. He said he could not be a fair and impartial juror if selected.
We join that motion.
All right, I'll grant that motion. 24 be released from cause. 25 next. who's witness, is this, you can remain standing. Ms. Hill, if you could come on up, please. Propound a question if you have any.
Yes, sir. Okay, Juror 25, I'd like to ask you about a couple of the answers you gave this morning. And I think you told us that if you were selected to sit as a juror on this case, you could have a potential scheduling conflict.
Yes.
Would you tell us about that, please?
As far as my work,
Okay. What type of work do you do?
I'm a manager over an installation company.
And are you salaried or hourly?
Salary.
So if you are selected to sit as a juror, do you know what your company's policy is regarding jury service?
No, not right now. That's one of the reasons. I have to check and see.
Okay. Other than that potential work conflict, any other scheduling conflicts?
No.
All right. I think you also told us that since you had filled out the questionnaire on Friday, you've seen continuing press coverage regarding this case?
I heard press coverage on the radio this morning.
All right. What
That's
you hear?
about the trial. That jury selection was starting, and they gave a little bit about the case itself when it was back in 2010.
Okay. Anything about what you heard this morning that caused you to form any opinions one way or another?
No.
Okay. And I think you indicated in your questionnaire that prior to hearing the coverage this morning, you really didn't remember much about this case.
No.
Okay. And if you were selected to sit as a juror on this case, you would have to base all of your evidence solely on what you hear in court today. Are you comfortable doing that?
Yes, cause
Not today, but throughout
Yes.
the course of the trial?
yes.
Okay. Let's see, and I want to just go back briefly to your employment. You're an office manager,
Yes.
and you've been working there for 11 years?
Yes.
So do you normally take vacation?
No.
No?
We take days off during the year, basically.
Is this the first time you've ever been called for jury service?
No, I've been called 2 other times.
Did you actually get selected to serve?
No.
Okay. At that time, did you inquire about the policy
No.
regarding pay?
No, it was just for 1 day, and that was it. I was only here a day.
Okay. The other thing you indicated in your questionnaire is that either you or someone who is close to you has gone through a divorce.
Yes.
And do you mind sharing with us who the person is?
I've been through a divorce.
Okay, how long ago?
Maybe, it might have been 10 or 12 years ago.
Okay. Throughout the time of your divorce, either just leading up to it or during the divorce itself, was there anything particularly messy or
No.
nothing? Okay.
Nothing.
Next question.
Yes, Judge. I don't believe I have any more. I just want to.
All right, thank you.
1 second.
Mr. Clegg?
You have, from what it appears on the questionnaire, an interesting educational background, ma'am. You said you had a BS degree, and is that in business management or was it in nursing?
Business management, LPN in nursing.
Have you worked as a nurse in the past?
Yes.
How often or how long ago has it been since you worked as a nurse?
It has been maybe 20 years now.
Do you still have your LPN license?
No, I just stopped them this year.
Now, you supervise 10 different people in your job, is that correct?
Yes, 10
And
plus.
do you have authority to both hire and fire individuals?
Yes,
And do you in fact, have you in fact done both?
yes,
Is that in your current position?
yes.
How long exactly have you been in your current position? 11 years, is that about right?
I've been employed there 11 years, but I've been an office manager over the whole group, maybe the past 6 years.
How large an organization is it that you work for?
Right now it's very small due to the economy, but I was managing up to 75 men at one time. Right now we're in the I have maybe 10, and then also I manage, we do contractors.
Okay. You are unfamiliar with the office policy as to whether you get paid if you are on jury duty, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. As office manager, do you have any input into setting that policy?
No, our policies come from our Florida group.
Okay. And you have, so at this point you have no idea if you get on this jury whether you will get paid or not?
That is correct.
Okay. Do you have some concern if you were to be selected to sit on this jury that it might affect your flow of income?
Yes, it will.
Would that affect your ability to focus on the evidence that was presented in this courtroom?
No.
So you could set that aside and listen to the evidence and decide this case fairly without, in the back of your mind, having to worry about the prospect of having your pay cut off.
That is correct.
Good enough, ma'am. Your former husband, I think, was a victim of a robbery, is that correct?
That is correct.
How long ago was that, ma'am?
Gosh, I got married at 35. I'm 62. 30-some years ago, I gave it, yeah.
When you say a robbery, was it a face-to-face confrontation between himself and another person?
He robbed a store.
Okay, so he was the one doing the robbing as opposed
That is correct.
to the individual who was the victim. Okay, were you married at that time?
No.
Okay, would you have had any reason to attend any sort of court proceeding relative to the charges that were brought against him?
No.
Okay. Did he get a prison sentence as a result?
Yes, yes, he did.
Have you had contact with him since?
No, he's now deceased, but after he was out of the penitentiary, yes, I had.
Would any of that affect your ability to sit as a fair and impartial juror in this particular case?
No.
And other than what you heard this weekend, I guess, was it today?
It was today on the news.
Okay, was it WSB or was it a different station?
It was the news station. I turned on
Okay.
91.96.
Scott Swade, was he on the radio by any chance? Do you know that name?
I don't know that name.
Fair enough, man. But good enough. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Please follow the instructions of the clerk. Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Moore.
Just for the benefit of his older lawyers, let me shoot a breakdown.
All right, I understand. What's the state's position?
State believes juror 25 is qualified, Judge.
She certainly is.
All right, she's qualified. Let's go ahead, since you made it apply, April, Deputy Garrett, he is the whole lawyer. Let's take 5 minutes, Deputy Garrett. All rise.
Ms. Carpenter, would you make a note, the oldest lawyer in the break right now, the oldest lawyer in the record? Thank you. Sorry. That's okay. I'm not sure that it did. Yeah, it is.
Good.
this for me.